Hello, it's Anna Hill here with the Farming Today podcast. Today, a cross-party group of MPs draws up an action plan for fishing to address the challenges facing the industry. First, though, all week we're finding out more about growing mushrooms. We eat more than £100 million worth in the UK every year. Yesterday we were in Northern Ireland. Today we visit the second largest mushroom farm in the UK, run by G's Fresh at Littleport in the Fens. It produces 160 tonnes a week from tiny buttons to large flat mushrooms. Our reporter Howard Shannon has been to one of the 48 growing tunnels where he spoke to farm manager Harry Nolan and first head grower Bogdan Gradinaru.
Well, we're standing in a series of tunnels here. There are aluminium shelvings. I can see 3 levels where the compost and the peat have been added, and the tunnel itself is probably 75 metres long. You're one of the growers here, yeah?
I'm the head grower on the facility and working for 10 years in the mushroom industry. So because we are on 48 growing rooms and we have a 6-week cycle, our process takes 40 days. So in this particular room that we are, this one was emptied on Sunday with the previous crop where we harvested 3 flushes. It was washed yesterday and disinfected, cooked out, so steamed to 70 degrees. For 8 hours, and then this morning we have a freshly clean room where we fill the new crop into the room as such, and we call this a day 0.
And it's up to day 16 is when you harvest.
Day 16 we're already having the first mushrooms, yes.
So Harry, in terms of energy consumption for this, is it an intensive use of energy?
Yes, very intensive use of energy. As part of the build of this mushroom farm, we've got an anaerobic digester at the bottom of the yard there, so that generates all the electricity and all the heat we use. Controlling the temperature in this room to within 0.2 of a degree is massively important for mushroom yield and quality.
Bogdan, could you show me the next stage?
Yes, we can definitely do that.
It's quite damp, isn't it? There's a lot of the water and the moisture dropping.
Yes, so this tunnel been filled last week Friday. So then on day 4 and 5, we are increasing the relative humidity. We are increasing the temperature in the room from 12 to 19 degrees. We completely shut down the fresh air, and because it's a living organism, we will build up a lot of CO2 in the room. And that's exactly what mycelium likes. It likes a nice, moist environment, and that will bring our mycelium nice to surface into the peat layer.
The use of peat is controversial, though, isn't it? Are you trying to phase it out?
20% of our production is currently peat-free, so all of our organic production we're using a peat-free material. I think the real challenge is the yield loss that comes with the peat-free. We're around a 10% yield loss compared to peat, so that's a big challenge to roll that out across the whole farm and stomach a 10% yield loss.
Who are your main customers?
So main customers, Tesco's.
And are they putting pressure on you to phase peat out?
Yeah, they're putting pressure on us to phase peat out. I think it's one of them things, isn't it? We all need to be ready. 2030 is the year at the minute when peat will be removed, so we need to be in a position by 2030 to be able to produce what we are now on a peat-free material.
Now, another challenge you might be facing is labour, for instance. How's that?
Yeah, labour's tough. So mushrooms are all hand-picked. So out of our 160 tonne of mushrooms a week, a rule of thumb is 1 picker per 1 tonne of mushrooms per week. So we employ around 180 pickers a week. They say that mushroom picking is the most skilled, unskilled job. Half of our pickers are coming through the seasonal worker scheme, so 6 months on, 6 months off, which is a challenge when you compare to the rest of the market, like Ireland and Holland, where they have 3-year visa schemes for mushroom pickers.
G's Fresh farm manager Harry Nolan and head grower Bogdan Gradinaru speaking to our reporter Howard Shannon. Now, farming can be intensely physical work and it can take a real toll on farmers' health, especially when it comes to arthritis. According to one charity, for every decade you farm, you are 9 times more likely to suffer from this painful condition. But there's hardly any research looking at the impact of arthritis on farmers and the industry. Well, now the University of Worcester is looking to change that. BBC West Midlands Rural Affairs correspondent David Gregory Kumar reports.
Alan Chatham has been on this Shropshire dairy farm his whole life.
I was born in 1949. I've lived in this house till 2016 when we swapped houses with my son James.
But for many years his arthritis left him unable to do as much of the farm work as he wanted.
So all this swelling here, all that swelling. I live on painkillers and anti-inflammatories. I can't grip anything. The joints are so painful.
Alan's son James is the third generation of the family to farm here, and he remembers how arthritis affected his dad.
He's a bit down about not being able to do as much manual work as he was used to doing. Yeah, his mental health probably affected him a little bit.
So on an individual level, the impact of arthritis on farmers and on their farms and the work they can do out in the fields, well, that can be enormous. But what's the impact on the industry as a whole? Well, now, for the first time, someone's trying to find out. A team from the University of Worcester are taking to the road and setting up stalls at the Three Counties Show and the Royal Welsh Show to find out more from farmers themselves about how they cope with arthritis. They want to learn what works so they can spread the word.
I'm Professor Nick Evans. I'm Professor of Rural Geography at the University of Worcester. I know anecdotally of some farmers, for example, that have wrapped pipe foam around a gear stick to make it bigger so that the grip that's needed for that gear change is less intense. So there's all these sorts of adaptations that I'm sure people are making, but they're totally undocumented.
This study is all about listening to and learning from farmers on their farms. And back in Shropshire, while his dad copes with rheumatoid arthritis, James is dealing with the first signs of osteoarthritis, likely brought on by the wear and tear of farming on his body.
I've got a bit of osteoarthritis in my one shoulder, and I've got some exercises I do each day and just try and keep fit and keep it at bay, really.
At the end of this research, for the first time, we'll see the impact of arthritis on farmers and also learn how they cope with it.
BBC West Midlands Rural Affairs correspondent David Gregory Kumar. Farmers and crofters are criticising the Scottish Government over the allocation of grants for the Future Farming Investment Scheme. About 7,500 applications were submitted for the £21 million fund, but around 3,500 applications didn't meet the criteria, with some farmers and politicians claiming the distribution of money was unfair. Minister for Agriculture and Connectivity Jim Fairley said he understood some people would be disappointed and added that the Scottish Government was already reviewing the scheme. Here's BBC Scotland reporter Laurie Carnahan.
The Scottish Government has come under fire from farmers and cross-party politicians over its handling of grants for the Future Farming Investment Scheme. The £21 million fund aimed to boost productivity, sustainability and efficiency within the sector. However, during a debate at Holyrood, it was revealed that around 3,500 out of the almost 7,500 applications were deemed ineligible. Andrew Parker, who runs a small sheep farm on the outskirts of Lockerbie, said he thought he had a good chance of securing funding. He engaged with his agricultural advisor to assist with the application, which focused on improving the farm's grassland and field fencing, but he was unsuccessful.
I can't really see how one person can get a brand new feeder wagon that's probably £30,000-40,000 and somebody that's trying to actually do what the grant was technically for the dry stone diking and land improvement and trying to improve the quality of systems got declined, really. You know, a brand new feeder wagon over actually improving land. You know, it doesn't make sense.
The National Farmers Union Scotland said that whilst it was pleased for its members who received a grant, many farmers had been left disappointed after losing out, despite submitting what they believed were strong and eligible applications. Andrew Cannon, the president of the union, said there was a need for greater clarity and fairness relating to the scoring mechanism. Mr Cannon has now written to the Minister for Agriculture and Connectivity, Jim Fairley, calling for improvements to be made for future funding rounds. Mr Fairley said the Scottish Government was already reviewing the scheme.
It's massively oversubscribed, and that to me is a good thing, because it means there's lots of people are trying to do the best that they can, and we'll continue to do as much as we can to help them. So we'll take the lessons from this and the learning from this, and we'll say, how can we target those schemes better in the future? But we will continue to do what we do as the Scottish Government, and that is support our farmers and crofters, because we absolutely value what they do and the value that they bring to Scotland.
The scheme was also set to benefit the ministerial priority groups, including new entrants, young farmers and environmentally focused businesses. But politicians from opposition parties claimed there was a lack of consistency with the distribution of funds. Mr Fairley said that although the Scottish Government was committed to helping those in the priority groups, funding was not guaranteed just because they fell into one of those categories. The Scottish Government admitted the criteria for funding was perhaps too broad and is now engaging with stakeholders ahead of the next round of funding.
BBC Scotland reporter Laurie Carnahan. An all-party parliamentary group of MPs on fishing is launching what it calls a new action plan for fishing. The group believes that the industry is being challenged by a series of problems, including a declining workforce, restrictions at sea because of environmental protection and avoiding wind farms. The former Fisheries Minister and Cambridge MP Daniel Zeichner is writing the report. I asked him why it's needed.
Well, there's an awful lot going on in the fisheries space at the moment, very complicated. And the complaint from the industry for quite a long time has been that there isn't an overall plan for the future of the industry. And I rather agree with that. And certainly I see fisheries as playing a key part in our food system in the future.
The industry is coping with many different pressures, a declining workforce, pressure of larger operators at sea, marine protected areas which prevent fishing in some places. What are the priorities for this new action plan?
Well, I think that is exactly the point. There are so many different things going on in the sector at the moment. For me, the key theme is seeing fisheries as a part of our food system and our food security in the future. And I expect that to be the case as the discussions go forth, as we go around the country meeting people. It's very different in different places, of course. The very big pelagic sector in Scotland, some of the much smaller inshore fishers along the east coast, and then, of course, a very successful industry down the southwest. So it is a complicated sector, but very important we have a long-term view, and that's what we're seeking to give here.
What sort of long-term? What are the main priorities?
Well, I think it's a mixture of things, isn't it? It's partly dealing with the pressures that are coming from much more offshore wind, for instance, the marine protection that we know we need to do, but also some of the workforce issues, making sure we've got the right mix of skills so we can take this industry forward in the future.
Scottish fishermen were furious last month because the UK government allocated the lion's share of a fishing and coastal growth fund to England. Now, Scotland says it'll get less than 8% of the £360 million fund, even though it accounts for more than 60% of the UK's fishing capacity. So are you going to look at that in your action plan?
Well, I'm sure it'll be raised because obviously the Scottish pelagic fishers are represented on the council that oversees this. Obviously, I'm no longer the minister, so it wasn't my decision, but I would just gently point out that the way in which funds are allocated through the Barnet system is widely used for all UK funding. And I would also say that I think the English inshore fishing sector in particular has got some particular challenges. So I think that money will be used well.
You were Fisheries Minister until quite recently, until last summer. So is this what you should have been doing as a minister?
There's a lot going on in the fisheries sector, particularly around the development of the fisheries management plans. But certainly in my discussions with people like the National Federations of Fishermen's Organisations, I was certainly thinking about the need for this kind of approach in the future. So I think it's very timely to do it now. And what I will bring to this, I hope, is some expertise from having been in government.
Daniel Zeichner MP. That's all from us. I'm Anna Hill. The producer was Rebecca Rooney. Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.